morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to Live 2024.
The biggest issues in our society require a collective effort.
Our customers' time is not a constant. What is industry leading today very quickly becomes industry standard tomorrow.
The menopause is the biggest marathon a woman will ever enter, and you need to help her better prepare for that so she can have a better experience.
I don't think anyone in human history, probably in the last 200 years, has had a truly unique idea. They're just really rare.
But just as our brand's identities are shaped by their core values, our personal brand is defined by the principles we live by.
I love being at these events. I just find these conversations so much helpful because it just opens up your mind. It's the diversity of thought, the experts in the room, and just being out and about and hearing more what's happening in the industry. I think it's a really, really good balance of business and third-party vendors along with the content as well.
Just keeping my finger on the pulse, learning what the landscape's doing right now, understanding some of the solutions that people are finding to the problems we're all experiencing. And that insight for me is probably the most invaluable I'll get.
The networking. There's brands within tech, within retail, within grocery.
I think I really love connecting with colleagues, present and past. What a great place to just bring everyone together.
We are kind of what Gen Z see as like their reality star. They're not just invested in like my fashion, they're invested in me as a person.
Your brand strategy has to be agile, has to be flexible and in line with the changing consumer tastes.
Grocer, as I said, is the first adjacency. It is one of the biggest drivers for us. It is one of the biggest opportunities for customers to engage and operate with.
However, creativity played a big role in driving engagement.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to this ITAB special takeaway on Retail Week Live. And that was actual Retail Week Live's video that they put as the highlight reels for day one and day two. As some of you who attend these calls, you may know or may not know, I'm Alex from the Retail Podcast, and I have my partner in crime, Emma.
Yes, hi, Emma here from ITAB.
And Emma's gonna be the voice of ITAB and the customer, and I'm gonna dive straight in terms of the key takeaways from the London show. So, obviously, you've seen us in New York. We were in Germany. We're now in London. And the biggest difference between, I think, Retail Week is an established publication and institution in the UK. And so they have a very good network. And this almost was in collaboration with the British Retail Consortium in terms of the main body in the UK representing the retail industry. And a lot of the focus was that in between the talks, there were breakout sessions. But I've got, as always, a few slides to share with you. So let's get some slides to help us sort of unpack what we're looking at. So the event in itself, in terms of size and scale, totally a different scale. So much smaller in terms of compared to Eurosys and NRF, but definitely on the quality of content, really good. I think as we go through these events, one of the key things is, who are these events for? And I think this event has struggled for years about who actually should come. So I obviously met some of my fellow peers who were there. There's a bunch of industry pundits and specialists like myself, or experts. Then you had, if you like, store associates, store managers, big brands sending their teams to learn about people management, to learn about the different themes. Then you had some people from marketing, some people from technology. And the point here is, I think the quality is fantastic in terms of the talks that they're doing, but sometimes who the audience is sometimes gets a little bit, is it to the C level, and they're hoping that every single talk is to the CEO, but in reality, if it's a shop manager, area manager, or someone from the design or merchandising team, you can see how some of the points miss the mark. But in terms of overall, I thought it was a great event. The think tanks obviously happened in the breakout sessions, targeted at the C-suite. That's what the literature tells you. It is for the C-suite. And there was definitely a high attendance rate of retailers in the room. And so the expo part, in terms of, I think, unfortunately, for the people expoing there, super tough. Very, very limited in terms of engagement, because people are going there to learn and network as opposed to looking for solutions. So in terms of the key themes, people, 100%, it's retail. The UK retailers focus on people. Sustainability that was missing from the last two events. I don't think it's a reflection on in the locations, because in Europe, sustainability is just as important as it is here in the UK. But the events didn't really focus on it. So real deep dive into the sustainability. And I think the thing that made this event very unique was its focus on the new generation. That's the new generation of employees coming into your workplace, the new generation of consumers and how they're consuming and what they're looking, and the new generation of retail. What is that? Physical and digital. Bearing in mind, most of these retailers are physical retailers. Yes, there are platforms there, and I'll cover some of them, but most of them are physical retailers. They have stores up and down the country. So what is the new generation? And my slides have loaded up really poorly on this.
I can fill in during when you fix that slide, Alex. So
yeah,
this is live.
Obviously this builds on PowerPoint, but when you upload it, okay. So my TikTok slide, which had lots of TikTok data points and takeaways. In fact, what I'm going to do, give me 1 second, because it's nothing better than doing a live, right? To test your metal. Yeah, so I'm just getting the TikTok slides.
About some things about what I saw on the schedule and the talks. I really enjoy that they are really consumer focused, and it is for the retailer. So you could see that it is much more focusing on giving values to the retailer rather than some suppliers. So there are a lot of focus on how do we work for the consumers of tomorrow, and what do we do to meet the challenges for the retailers, as for the staffing issues and so on. That's huge at the moment. So that's my biggest takes on the schedule. So
thank you for filling. Right, let's see if this works. I'm gonna, it's always dangerous to share your screen, but let me see if I can do this just quickly for this. Emma, you tell me if you can see my screen when I share it. Let's share screen. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, this is allowing me to do this. You can see it.
Yes, lovely.
Brilliant. Okay, so this was interesting, and I'll start with this. Everyone and a lot of talks throughout the show focused on community and building a community. Obviously, TikTok would love us all to have TikTok at the center of our community, but brands like Lidl, brands like Stanley, and Stanley's really interesting from a retail perspective. They make lots of different products, predominantly in the thermos space, but they do so much more than just thermos cups, because I know they do stuff for building. But the key interesting part about this is and I forget the guy's name. He was at Crocs, and he was responsible for Crocs being footwear for nurses and people who worked in different industries, to actually becoming this mass consumer product. And lo and behold, he's done the same at Stanley. And Stanley obviously appear on TikTok. It's the one in the middle there. It's called the Stanley Cup. But basically, they've just had a massive growth. And the key element, you can see the numbers, they talk for themselves about TikTok being a social brand in the UK that you can engage with. Let me just motor through this quickly. So what the TikTok talk really, the key takeaways here is, I will focus on authenticity. Authenticity came up time and time again. Retailers need to be authentic in their engagement with their consumers. They need to be authentic in their physical stores, and they need to be authentic with their staff. And obviously the manifestation of that online in a digital space means that you have to be authentic in the content that you're producing. In terms of the key numbers and stats, a little bit of doom and gloom for the UK, but on the up. In terms of obviously GDP, when you compare it to Europe, the US, and other parts of the world, is incredibly small and suffering. But it is one of the most dynamic retail environments just by the size of the industry here. And the fact that for the first time in 3 or 4 years, there is an uptake in sentiment and uptake in GDP. As small as it is, these are little signs that we are sort of coming around a very, or coming out of a very sort of dark patch. But growth is there. So again, a lot of the executives were looking for growth ideas. And again, here, digital platforms such as TikTok positioning themselves as the growth engines or growth enablers. I mean, you can still see my slides, right? They're readable.
That's correct.
So
I can see them.
I'll keep them here, and then I'll go back to the later when it is. So sustainability, as mentioned, was a key area, and one of the things that I just love, Johan Monk. So the European ITAB community, you may know of this, but in the UK, I never heard of POP, Polaran Opera. They make kids clothing. But the one thing I absolutely loved about this company was when they make when they make a child's garment, they make it for not only 3 sizes, but for 3 generations of children to reduce that impact on sustainability. And I thought that was incredible, that here's a brand that has different things built into the cuffs to make it grow as your child grows. And as I said, having children, or those who have children, they grow. And so having garments that grow with your child is incredible. But also the fact that they are building the fact that all of their products are for 3 generations of children, I thought was fantastic in terms of a takeaway and a brand that's up and coming. Obviously, lots of retailers are now getting their B Corp status and certification. It is difficult to go through that process. It's a multi-year process, but people now see it as an imperative, as part of not only being sustainable, but standing for something and having values beyond consumption. Again, that was another key area. Consumers are really turned off when people are selling to them. And so how do you, in this physical world, create these environments that bring in your community, that bring in all these other areas, such as sustainability, and make it as part of the path to purchase or as part of people's shopping missions? So really interesting talk in terms of how these retailers, because they are startups, the lady that you can't see, not with her back to me, but she's that was a organic chewing gum company, and the level of plastic in some products was mind-blowing. That she gave some stats in terms of, did you know that plastic exists in chewing gum? And so now there's this new chewing gum brand that doesn't have plastic in there. One of the other areas, before I get into community and sustainability.
One question there, Alex, on the sustainability part. What would you say would be your key takeaway to other retailers? How to be sustainable with impact? What could you do as a retailer that is a bit huger than the smaller startups to be more sustainable?
Yeah, the one brand that I love, I love them, but I don't shop there because is Lush. So they make not because I don't wash myself or buy soap, but I just never have gone into Lush. But I absolutely love their what they stand for, their marketing. They're global. They're in Asia. They're in the US. They're in the UK. They're in Europe, and they make lots of different types of products. One of the things in terms of the world of sustainability and packaging, and you and I saw this in terms of refill at Eurosys, is this idea of nude products. How can you sell your products with minimum packaging? And what Lush has done, and they've done it successfully because the app has now got 2 million downloads, they've offset that that sort of packaging product information offset to digital. So you have an augmented reality experience as part of the application. When you're walking around the store, there's engagement there. So you have your mobile if you want. The mobile can connect to screens. So it's not eyes down, it's eyes up, or for people to see. And then using their augmented reality checker, you can check the different products, ingredients, what's in there, prices, similar products. And I love that in terms of reducing packaging, because it's the one thing that we all agree we need to get rid of plastic. And I think that's something super easy, super engaging, cool and relevant. And I think Lush, which he was there, the chap that was responsible for it, but I'm not really going to get into that. So I think that's a great example.
We will get into Lush website of this, I think, to check it out.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's really great in terms of what they've done for, and again, nude products, products without packaging, which is what we want. Then in terms of pre-loved and secondhand, I think most of the brands you may know, but the one you won't know is called Charity Super.market. They act as a department store for charities. So if you imagine your high street with in the UK, we have high streets that have got, up to 5 or 6 different charities. They look to sort of industrialize that in a sense by bringing in fixtures and fittings of traditional retail, upscaling that, and then having them in premium locations, such as they've done collaborations on Oxford Street. They want to get into Bond Street. They're now opening, they were in a London commercial centre, a shopping centre called Brent Cross, which is in the north of London. But what they're all about is, number one, doing good, raising money. So they've raised, I think, almost £2 million for these charities, bringing footfall into shopping centres or destinations by having this circular focus or this sort of pre-loved focus, which for the younger shoppers is very, very important. The platforms such as eBay, Depop, we're all talking about how transparency is very clear, really important, and I think the bigger retailers understand this, and they've built that into some of, where is this product from? I've mentioned before, there will be EU legislation coming down, or they're looking at it and I can't remember if it's its first generation or second generation of how the laws get passed in the EU, but they're looking at the product life cycle. And I think I can't remember the name, but every product should have a certificate of what is in this product. And so transparency is really clear, and some retailers are trying to get ahead of that by having these sorts of open environments where you can have circular products in there. And I think this is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And I question for you: do you have car boot sales? Do you know what a car boot sale is?
No, I haven't heard of car boot sales.
Excuse me. I think it's a British thing. I mean, obviously, I'm based in Spain or Madrid, and they have secondhand or flea markets, whereas we had this big culture in the UK, predominantly in the last decade, where they had car boots. So you would drive into a massive field, open the back of your car, and then start selling whatever stuff you don't want. And what the comment here was online is that new offline secondhand space. You know, and I think there's space for both, but it was an interesting commentary for car boot sales.
In Sweden, we call it bakluckeloppis. That's
yeah. Excuse me.
We have it in Sweden, yeah, for sure.
What, okay, just curious. What is it called?
Bakluckeloppis.
Okay, thanks. I'm not going to try and say that. So I know a subject that is at the heart of, you know, ITAB and from working with you, some of the things that is that you focus on is this whole increase and rising concern in theft in retail. Again, it's an issue. It's an issue in the UK. There was a great talk from the Retail Trust, which is a charity to support retail workers, the Union of Distributive and Allied Workers, which is USDAW, and then the Association of Convenience Stores. All, and this was the sad thing about the talk. Not in the talk was sad, but all of them had data points and statistics that would say, you know, retail is an incredibly tough environment, and so if we want people to come into retail, we need to protect them. This is. And I think this is interesting commentary where they were saying this isn't a protect your product type, you know, activity. It's actually how you recruit people by creating these safer working environments and stores. And that does fall into societal, us being aware of it, government putting the policies and changing the stupid limits that say, you know, theft is only theft if it's £200 and above, which means petty crime just sort of goes unpunished. And then technology-based, what are the technologies that you can deploy that help? And for me, this was a sort of another one of those, I'd never thought of, you know, shrink or theft being an issue for recruitment, especially in the store, how you create safer stores. And so, you know, they all had quite negative data and statistics about the level of abuse that goes on in stores, the level of theft that happens, and the thing that they all agreed that we should all sort of be open and again talk about this more is the fact that sometimes when people things are they report an issue and they feel that it's not addressed, they don't then report it again. And they were, you know, all three bodies were saying, no, we need to keep reporting. We need to keep, you know, banging the drum so people listen, as it is such a critical issue. And obviously you can read the statistics there in terms of what's happening and this is specifically the UK. The other key area in terms of mental health and staff retention, that was the key element that I was talking about. But then, you know, they were talking about it's a shared responsibility. And I think, why do I mention that? A lot of time throughout my career, people always thought, well, that's lost an asset or theft protection. No, this is a human resource issue now, right? This is now a merchandising and product issue. And it's not from what people were saying, it's not going away anytime soon. So again, it was a tough conversation. It was we can't skirt around the fact and the reality of the cost of living crisis. Inflation has driven these, and in the US, the criminal gangs, which I think again is happening throughout the world, Europe and the UK. But the fact that, you know, we need to foster a safer working environment, and the fact that those three elements, including solutions and technologies, is something was again new for me. I thought that was interesting. So rather than end on a downbeat, one of this is the last slide. The second day was all about sort of, you know, the new generation. Who are your new colleagues? Who are the new employees? Who are the new? And it's interesting. Tyrese, the chap there, although he wouldn't probably, the non-binary person, I think he made a thing. He doesn't like to be called an influencer. He's a creator. Over 1 million followers on TikTok, And, you know, when I looked at the brand collaborations, both of them, Jessie, this lovely girl who has a speech impediment, who has lots of different anxiety issues, but now becoming the spearhead for a lot of retailers in the UK. And I'll just press play on the video. This is Tyrese at London Fashion Week. He started his career during lockdown, where as someone from the LGBTQ plus community, he felt unrepresented. And when he turned to TikTok and engaging his community, he didn't want to just be another LGBTQ sort of, you know, dancing and doing things. He wanted to stand and have his own. And the reason why I'm finishing on this, he wanted to have his own authentic feel and look. And I think we're moving into this new era where physical for so long has been, you know, cut and paste, and then expand. But I think there needs to be some thought and some leadership in terms of how do we create these authentic retail experiences for this new generation physically in stores. And I'll leave it with that. I don't know if you've got any questions, Emma. I'm going to stop sharing and come back. There you go. I've managed to come back.
Yes.
Without breaking anything.
Perfect. Yeah, I would just add a comment to the new or next generation in terms of, like you say, diversity. Influencers are big, like we can see, like Prime, Mr. Beast, things like that are very big in the new retail world. But how do you think that retailer can work to bring these into their stores and their brands in a good way? What would you say?
I think so. There was a couple of interesting talks that I've not covered, like the head of Amazon in the UK. You know, he did the keynote opening. A gentleman, and I unfortunately so many names. He was from the cooperative, and I think the co-op. We all know the co-op across Europe, across the world. You know, they're a grocer. They're owned by their members, so the people who work in the cooperative. And you know, he finished day one with a great presentation, and he said, "What do you want to be famous for?" And I think the new era of retail is about what brands and retailers want to be famous for. So building authentic environments means maybe you need to hack your business and bring people from different parts of your business to come together for the, you know, if you're looking at a 5-year plan or an 18-month plan in terms of what are we doing, what are we focusing on, bringing these diverse, and it's called cognitive diversity in terms of bringing that change of thought into it, I think is the easiest, probably the cheapest thing that a retailer can do in sort of hacking their way into what the next environment is. And then this is the obvious answer, working with companies like ITAB, but I don't want to say that because it feels like but it just, you know, bringing the experts in design into that, where you're then looking at your briefs in a different way and how you're writing those briefs. And even the creators, influencers, they were talking about briefs, how in marketing people have these briefs and how they're changing, because now they have to have the customer, if you like, at the heart of that in all of the shades and types and grades and shopping missions that exist. In the UK, this isn't news. The retail store footprint is reducing because more purchasing is happening online. But consumers still want to interact. They just need a reason to go into store. And as we saw from NRF, brands like the different brands that they were talking about there, and the name's gone out of my head, but they're building these design experiences that basically has an experience as part of the store that is connected to your digital, and it works in this. And there was a talk about the future, and I didn't cover it because for me it was like very telling. It was from the leader of EE, their stores, and BP, their head of forecourt. And I asked the question through the question, how do you connect offline to digital back to offline, which is the big mission? And they really struggled answering that question. So it's definitely something that people have to go through that design process to get to that. And that's an incredibly long response to a really short question. Sorry.
We're talking about unified commerce. We are talking about the challenges in the staffing. Yeah, that's very interesting that you said that about the staffing and how to make sure that you take social responsibility, as that connects really much to the staffing issues or challenges that we see now in the industry, that it's changing. So we need to think about the people and the person, be humane, and then I think we will attract the Gen Z and the people after that.
Yeah, that was one of the takeaways, and I'll be interested as we go into Shop Talk in the US that starts on Sunday or Monday. I'll be interested in how many of these themes in the UK translate. Yeah, in the US, right? And then later in the year when we go to NRF in Singapore. So we're really getting this, and the community that is listening, watching this, you're on this journey with us. So please feel free to reach out to your ITAB representatives or to us via the chat. Let us know if there's anything you are interested in covering, any questions you would want to ask at these events, and I'll make sure that we bring them back.
For sure. Thank you very much, Alex, for this, and thank you all who has been listening to this, and see you next time.
I think see you in a week or so.
Yeah, very soon.
Excuse me. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye-bye.